Hello, I'm Colonel John Evans with the North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission, Law Enforcement Division. I want to take a moment to tell you that we're excited that you're taking time to enjoy the waterways of North Carolina. Prior to operating or being a passenger on any vessel on the waters of this state, you should know and understand the boating safety laws in North Carolina. The video you are about to watch contains information and regulations specifically for individuals that may be renting, operating, or riding on personal watercraft for the first time. However, much of the information in this video applies to the operation of any vessel on the waters of this state. Please take a few minutes to watch our video and learn more about safe boating in North Carolina. We hope that you have a safe and enjoyable boating experience here in our state.
Hey, I'm Officer Barbara Smith with the North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission.
And I'm Officer Daniel Kennedy with the North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission.
We are here today to talk about the laws and safety practices associated with operating a personal watercraft, otherwise known as PWCs or jet skis as they are more commonly called.
Throughout this video, we will discuss everything from the legal operating age for a PWC to the safe handling and operation of a PWC. Sit back and listen well, because what we cover could possibly save your life or someone else's. The first topic we're going to discuss is required boating safety education. In North Carolina, it is unlawful for a person to operate a vessel with a motor of 10 horsepower or greater on the public waters of this state, unless the person is in compliance with the requirements for boating safety education. A person is in compliance with these boating safety education requirements if the person does any of the following: completes and passes a boating safety course that is approved by the National Association of State Boating Law Administrators, otherwise known as NASBLA, passes a proctored equivalency examination that tests the knowledge from an approved course, possesses a valid or expired license to operate a vessel issued to maritime personnel by the U.S. Coast Guard, possesses a state-approved, non-renewable temporary operator certificate to operate a vessel for 90 days that was issued with a certificate of number for the vessel, if the boat was new or was sold with a transfer of ownership, possesses a rental or lease agreement from a vessel rental or leasing business that lists the person as the authorized operator of the vessel, properly displays commission-issued dealer registration numbers during the demonstration of the vessel, operates the vessel under onboard direct supervision of a person who is at least 18 years of age and who meets the requirements of this section, demonstrates that he or she is not a resident, is temporarily using the waters of the state for a period not to exceed 90 days, and meets any applicable boating safety education requirements of the state or nation of residency, has assumed operation of the vessel due to the illness or physical impairment of the initial operator, and is returning the vessel to shore in order to provide assistance or care for the operator, is registered as a commercial fisherman or a person who is under the onboard direct supervision of a commercial fisherman while operating the commercial fisherman's boat, provides proof that he or she was born before January 1st, 1988.
Next, we will discuss minimum ages to operate a PWC in North Carolina. No one under the age of 14 years old can operate a PWC or jet ski under any circumstance. People under 14 years old can ride a PWC or be a passenger, but there must be another person on board the PWC that is in compliance with the North Carolina boating education requirements. A person that is at least 14 years old but younger than 16 years old, in other words, 14 and 15-year-olds, can operate or drive a PWC or jet ski, but only if they meet the following requirements. The person has successfully completed a NASBLA-approved boating education course. However, proof of age and safety course certification must be carried by the youth during operation of the PWC. The person has a passenger on board that is at least 18 years old and in compliance with North Carolina boating safety education requirements. Anyone 16 years old or older may operate a PWC if they are in compliance with the North Carolina boating safety education requirements. So, we have discussed the minimum age requirements for operating a PWC. Now we will discuss what is required to be presented or produced when requested by a law enforcement officer. Any person who operates a vessel with a motor of 10 horsepower or greater on the waters of this state shall, upon the request of a law enforcement officer, present to the officer a certification card or proof that the person has complied with the provisions of this section. Lastly, regarding the age requirements of someone operating a PWC, it is unlawful for the owner of a PWC or a person who has temporary or permanent control of a PWC to knowingly allow a person under 16 years old to operate a PWC outside of the requirements we previously discussed.
The next vital piece of safety equipment we're going to cover today is PFDs. State law requires that every person on board or being towed by a PWC have on a U.S. Coast Guard approved PFD at all times. You can either wear a Type 1, 2, 3, or Type 5. What I'm going to display to you today is a Type 3 PFD. It's the most common. What you're going to need to do is just make sure, by looking on the inside, is make sure that it specifies that it is Coast Guard approved. The next piece of safety equipment we're going to cover is the emergency lanyard. Today, most PWCs come equipped with these from the factory, and it's going to come in one of two fashions. Either a wristband that I have to display today, or a plastic clip, which the operator would then hook to their PFD. The most important thing to remember is while in operation, the operator should have this attached to their person at all times. The importance of this is if any time the operator is thrown from the vessel, it will cut the engine and hopefully prevent any injuries. One of the important pieces of safety equipment you're going to need on your PWC is going to be a fire extinguisher. It's usually going to be located in one of two places, either this front compartment, you pull up on the latch, lift, and it's either going to be located here in the back, and we'll show that in just a second. But what's really important is you want to make sure that this is a Coast Guard approved Type B1 fire extinguisher. Also need to make sure it's properly charged. If it doesn't have a gauge, what you can do is look at this green indicator button on the top. If you're able to push that down and it pops back up, that's going to show that you have pressure and it's operable. If your fire extinguisher is not in the front compartment, the second location you want to look is going to be underneath the seat. If you look at the back, there should be a small latch. Lift that latch, lift your seat, pull it off, and there's, in this one, two compartments. And as you can see, the fire extinguisher is right here. Easily to remove. It's also a Type B1 fire extinguisher, U.S. Coast Guard approved, and has the same indicator marker on the top.
Whenever a PWC or jet ski is being used to tow skiers or is pulling an inner tube, there are certain requirements that must first be met. We will discuss those requirements so that we can tow skiers or tubers in the safest way possible. The only way that a person can operate a PWC without having a proper lookout on board is to have rear view mirrors or side mirrors equipped on the PWC. If these mirrors are equipped, then no lookout is required. If there are no rear view or side view mirrors equipped on board the PWC, then there must be another passenger occupying or on board the PWC, so they can act as the lookout in case something were to happen to someone being towed. Another important safety issue to be aware of is the maximum safe load for the PWC. Each PWC or jet ski is labeled with the number of occupants that the vessel is rated for. This can be found in different locations depending on the type of PWC and the manufacturer. If you cannot find this information, then you can look in the owner's manual or contact the manufacturer directly. The total number of persons operating, observing, and being towed cannot exceed the number identified by the manufacturer as the safe load for the PWC.
Knowing how to respectfully and safely operate your PWC is a must. At no point should you unreasonably or unnecessarily weave through congested vessel traffic. You should always operate the PWC with respect to others. Next, when operating the PWC, you should never attempt to jump the wake of another vessel within 100 feet of that vessel. You should also never jump the wake of another vessel if the visibility of that vessel is obstructed in any way. When operating a PWC, you should also never intentionally approach another vessel to swerve at the last possible moment to avoid collision. You should always operate your PWC within the guidelines of the rules of the road. Remember that not everyone else knows these guidelines and it is your responsibility to operate in a safe manner. Be sure to not follow other vessels, including other PWCs, too closely. Following too closely as defined by law is proceeding in the same direction of another vessel and operating at a speed in excess of 10 miles per hour when approaching within 100 feet to the rear or 50 feet to the side of another vessel that is underway. The only exception to this is if you are operating in a narrow channel, and then you can only operate at the speed and flow of other vessel traffic. A narrow channel is defined as a segment of the waters of this state that is 300 feet or less in width. Anytime that you are starting the engine or operating your PWC, be sure that the jet motor area of the vessel is clear of anything, and most importantly, anyone. Just because there is no propeller, like a conventional boat motor, does not mean that they are not dangerous. Be sure to stay clear of this area when the PWC is under power to avoid causing serious bodily harm. Always remember that when you are operating a PWC, you can only effectively steer if it is under power. The moment you let off the accelerator, you lose any means of steering. You also have no brakes on a PWC. When you let off the accelerator, you slow down, but you have no means of braking like in a motor vehicle. The faster you are going, the further you will travel once you let off the accelerator. It is very important that you take this into consideration when operating a PWC so that you do not run into anything or anyone. Also, remember that it is unlawful to operate a PWC on the waters of North Carolina between sunset and sunrise.
Officer Kennedy just discussed some of the reckless operating concerns and laws. I will now discuss some other restrictions and safety concerns that apply specifically to PWCs or jet skis. When operating a PWC on public waters in North Carolina, PWCs are required to operate at a no-wake speed whenever they are within 100 feet from certain areas or objects. First, you need to understand what a no-wake speed is. Operating at a no-wake speed means that the PWC is being operated at idle speed or a slow speed where there is no noticeable wake left behind the vessel. A wake is the track of waves left behind the PWC while it moves through the water. Now that you understand what no wake means, let us discuss areas or situations on the water when you must come to a no wake speed. Anytime that a PWC comes within 100 feet of an anchor or moored vessel, a dock or pier, a swimming float, or a marked swimming area, the operator must slow the PWC to a no-wake speed. If the PWC is being operated in a narrow channel defined as 300 feet wide, then the PWC must come to a no-wake speed within 50 feet of the scenarios or situations previously mentioned. PWCs are very fast and maneuverable vessels that can be extremely fun to operate. However, they can also be extremely dangerous if precautions are not taken. No person or corporation shall rent or lease a PWC to the public unless they have first secured liability insurance that covers the person or corporation and the individual renting the PWC. Each PWC that is rented or leased must be covered under this policy. This policy must cover damages that include damages for care and loss of services due to bodily injuries or death of any person. It must also cover injury or destruction of property caused by accident from the operation of the rented PWC. The minimum amount of liability insurance coverage is $300,000 per occurrence.
The North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission hopes that you have a safe and enjoyable experience operating your PWC on the waters of North Carolina.
Everyone, please stay safe and be responsible while enjoying your PWC. Remember the topics that we have discussed today. They may save the life of another or even your own. For more information on PWC laws and boating safety, please go to ncwildlife.org.